The glass ceiling for women shows no signs of breaking. At least that's according to the latest Momentum-Unisa Financial Wellness Index. The study found that more women than men lost jobs because of COVID-19 and lockdowns. Almost half of all women who could work did not have a job, and those who were employed faced discrimination in terms of pay gaps. Joining us now to discuss this further is Momentum's Head of Marketing, Charlotte Nsubuga Mukasa. Thank you for your time, Charlotte, and joining us here on eNCA. Just a broad outline of your findings. We've always known, haven't we, that in terms of the pay gap in the marketplace, it's existed for many, many years, and despite lamenting it, very little has seemed to change in this regard. So what did your study reveal?
So thank you so much for having me on your show, and to all the listeners as well, and thank you for having me in your homes today. The index and the insights were so fascinating when it comes to women, youth, and small businesses. But in particular, when it comes to women, it surfaces the unpaid labor that women are actually undertaking. What do I mean by that? If I, for example, am a CEO, 8 to 5, I go home, I need to make sure that I become the MD or the CFO of my household, make sure that the groceries are in and ready for my child to have his cup tea for his school or for school the next day. And by the time I feel that I need to now attend to my emails, let's say at 8 p.m. in the night, my male colleague has had time to rest, and I, as a woman CEO in this particular example, I'm exhausted. So I'm not remunerated for that unpaid labor, and yet I'm still expected to perform at the same level as my male colleague the next day, granted, because that is the expectation of the job. And it found, depending on the industry, women or the pay gap in each industry varied between 19 and 57%, depending on the industry. And we found that women obviously were not paid as equally when it comes to the male counterparts. And the more junior they were in an organization, the less or the larger the pay gap. So it does seem to seem that the closer you climb the so-called corporate ladder, the gap does reduce. But guys, it is still there. So that was surfaced by the research insights. But it also said 18% of the 2,500 households that we surveyed, we only found that, yes, it was a single-headed household, but 80% of the women who were surveyed actually understood finances. They were actually pursuing their financial success in a meaningful manner, either with an accountability partner or their financial advisors. So you can imagine the bulk of women who are making financial decisions in their home for their children, for their grandmothers, or whoever else it is that is living with them, and the fact that they are so tired after a hard day's a job at work that you don't decisions. And we came up with this term through the insights called mental bandwidth depletion. It basically means that even if you haven't necessarily gone to school, if you are exhausted because you are juggling Zoom calls, homeschooling, or whatever else is happening in between COVID-19, the aptitude to actually make the best or optimal decision for your finances when you're presented with two seemingly good choices can make you actually make the wrong decision because you are mentally tired. And that was an insight that was more prevailing when it came to women than men.
Sure, that's an interesting insight, a burden that men like me will not necessarily identify with because, you know, we don't bear that burden in our society. The line is not doing justice to this really important conversation, Charlotte. So let me ask you just one last question. Talk to me about the COVID-19 dynamic. We are all talking about the impact of COVID-19 in terms of job and economic opportunity losses. But it seems from your research, these were particularly pronounced as they relate to women.
Yes, they were particularly pronounced when it comes to women, and also because women aren't necessarily planning for the long term. They are not saving for a rainy day. We are not necessarily thinking about wealth creation. We've got a hand-to-mouth mentality because we've got to look after ourselves, and we prioritize children before ourselves. And then even those people who are educated, who are financially knowledgeable, like myself, are not upgrading. You know, with software, you've got to upgrade every few days or every few months. We are not going
going to see how best we can become more financially literate, and we rely on what we studied in university, and that may not be enough to make the best financial decisions in 2021 amongst or within the actual pandemic. So it's about saying, how do you create a practical, accessible advice in a way that is packaged for consumers to, yes, understand the insights, but then where do they go afterwards? And this is where we're punting that they can go to the Momentum website to get bite-sized chunks of advice so that they are not further overwhelmed in terms of what to do next.
All right, Charlotte, we've got to leave it there. Unfortunately, the line not cooperating with us, but I think we got enough from that conversation. It's a truly important conversation we've gotten. It started. Of course, we must continue to focus on it.